And we are rolling. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. Today, I have someone who's a very special guest. Her name is LaChelle Adkins. She's America's Supermom. She's a consultant, coach, and strategist to help you achieve your dreams by beating overwhelm, fear, and stress. Thank you so much for joining.
Absolutely. I am so glad to get connected to you and glad to be here to add some value.
Excellent. So let's start at the beginning and kind of move forward to where we are now and today, and maybe some goals for the future. So what was life like growing up?
Actually, I was raised an only child. My mom was one of 12. So she had a lot of siblings, and she was like, that life was kind of chaotic for her. She just wanted one child. So I was very driven, always wanted a bigger family, wanted to have a brother and sister. I asked for it every Christmas and never got it. But later on I did. I got a step brother, but he never lived with us or anything. And I had a half sister. But in terms of just being raised every day, was very outgoing because I didn't like being alone at home. So I was involved in sports and activities through school. So it was pretty busy, never a dull moment, just trying to keep myself out of trouble.
That's interesting. So now your family is pretty large, right? How many children do you have?
Yeah, we have 15. So yeah, that's 15. We went past the dozen mark. My husband and I had 13 together, and then I have 2 stepchildren.
That's great. I saw you guys won Family of the Year, I think 2 years ago.
Yes. So it was an honor to be recognized, because we do gravitate and get a lot of attention wherever we go. People are like, do you have a daycare? Well, now that they're older, of course, but they're looking like, I heard that one say mom, that one say mom, because we still have 12 of them that live at home.
Wow.
Yeah. And their ages are 29 to 5. Wow. No twins, all single births. Yeah.
Wow. So what did that switch from, only child, smaller, immediate family to having such a large family? How did that shift your perception on like love and...
Yeah, it was definitely beautiful growing up, and raising them. I really enjoyed being able to see just the unique personalities, just how they're all different. One of the things that I struggled with being an only child, they would have their sibling rivalry and fights over small things, and I would be really like, oh, do they love each other? My husband's like, that's what brothers and sisters do, but the struggle became real for me because I wanted to be all things to all my kids. So I wanted to be that perfect mom to this one, and they all have different personalities, and that really was what led me into a downward spiral with depression, because I was trying to please them, please, everybody who saw us and interacted with us, thinking that, hey, we're supposed to have it all together. And so I think a lot of the pressures I put on myself made it kind of a harder transition as they got older and as we had more kids. And just the dynamics of our family. My husband was in the military part-time. He also is a pastor, and he worked full-time outside of the home in retail. So a lot of the responsibility was on me with being at home with them and traveling with them back and forth to extracurricular activities and things of that nature, because I would stay at home. And at some points, I even homeschooled some of them. I think we had at one point 7 of them that I homeschooled at one time.
Wow.
So just the dynamic of making that adjustment was somewhat of a struggle for me.
Wow. So, 7 kids homeschooled at one time. When do you have time for your business? Like, how do you make time for the business as well?
Yeah, so that was prior to me really branching out to do my business. My struggle with depression got to the point where I had to be hospitalized 3 times. So after my 3rd hospitalization, which was just in 2016, that's when I began an active career of coaching outside of the home and empowering other women to overcome depression and, knowing what some of their triggers are and really just being able to be their authentic true self. I had lost my identity. I didn't know who I was, just in this struggle to try to keep everything together. And I was functionally depressed. So I would always still take them to their practices, participate in school activities. Everybody on the outside didn't think anything was wrong, but at home I was a basket case and things just weren't, ironing out. I was not getting enough sleep, not eating right, just a number of things that were symptoms that my family noticed and which led to the hospitalization.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then what were some things to kind of reverse that, or some things that you're using to kind of, expand and not go back to the hospital?
Okay, great, good question. I think the first thing is recognizing who I am. My husband, like I said before, he's a pastor, which is requires me to be a first lady. He was an officer in the military, so there was a hierarchy within the military when we go to functions because he's an officer. So before my ability to kind of manage my stress and anxiety, I was trying to be all things to all people. So I go to this one place, I wanted to do this perfect, and I just never really was able to be my true authentic self.
Wow.
But now I have realized that I can be me in whatever environment I'm in. I don't have to seek that validation. I can be authentically me and not worry about rejection, fear of failure, none of those things. I have just really been able to wipe those things out by a strategy that I created once I was out of the hospital. It's the fresh start strategy. And so now I make sure part of that when it comes to empowering women is to help them to recognize that they are enough just like they are, and you have to prioritize for the happiness that you want in your own life. You have to make it happen. It's not just going to happen because you think it's a good idea. We have to really make concentrated effort and set up times that we are going to participate in self-care and do certain things that are going to help us to stay on the right track.
Interesting. What does your current self-care routine look like?
For me, I definitely manage the time that I work. So, I commit dedicated time to working and then dedicated time to being with the family. But I try to take care of my me time first thing in the morning. So before I get my kids up, I get up at least an hour and a half earlier so I can have time to read the scripture, do any kind of really big, audacious work that I have to have accomplished for the day. I try to begin that first thing in the morning so that it's not as intimidating throughout the day, and gradually work on it in between the time that I have to work during the day. And then in the evening, shutting down, by 10 or 11 o'clock, so that I can get up the next day. So it's just a matter of saying, hey, I might not accomplish it today, and it's okay, but it can wait till tomorrow.
Yeah. That's because, you're probably waking up at 5 o'clock then, if you have
around 5:30. Yeah. Around 5:30.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then shutting down can be, challenging, especially if you're moving fast, Do you work 5 days a week, or do you work?
Well, and I have learned to really say that again.
I'm sorry, you cut off, so I couldn't hear what you said.
Okay, yeah. So I try to be intentional, which it really has changed my work feeling. When it comes to having energy, I don't feel like I'm burning the candle at both ends, because when, like, for example, we're in this interview, I'm intentional about this interview. I'm not thinking about, if I need to write a blog or, if I have another podcast or things like that, I really focus on really being intentional with every activity that I do. And so I don't really have a lot of that scatterbrainness or whatever, feeling like I'm trying to do all things at all times. I don't really have that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I've noticed with like successful people, right? So when my coaches start working with me, they're always 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 different things. I'm like, oh, but that's why you're so tired. That's why you get nothing done.
Right.
So with that, are you working 5 days a week? Or are you working 7, or what is your like weekly?
Usually I work, let me see, I'm active 5 days a week, but my real work is only probably 3 days a week.
Oh, wow.
So I really don't do a lot of work on Monday, Friday. But if I do have coaching appointments with some of my clients, I usually do those on Mondays or Fridays. And then the work that I do for my business is pretty much Tuesday to Thursday.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I don't know. That's cool. Yeah, generally a lot of my coaching is done Monday through Wednesday, and then I kind of like to have Thursday, Friday to kind of just do my admin tasks and grow. Yeah, that's one thing that is kind of cool, but at the same time can be a little bit challenging, is managing a really large client load. So it's like, oh man. So what are you doing to get around that? Are you going to go into group coaching, or are you just going to are you going to try and keep the clientele under a certain number?
Right, keeping the clientele under a certain number. So my goal for 2020 is no more than 20 individual clients. So just to stay focused on the numbers. To me, coaching, when it comes to having the individual coaching, it is a process. And I've learned this only by jumping in feet first myself, because I have a marketing background. So I have this mindset of being a consultant to some extent. But when it comes to coaching, the client has to actually have awareness in order for it to be effective. And so I can tell you a formula or whatever, but if you're not feeling it, if you're not passionate about making the change, it's just not going to happen. But in the same vein, when you are interested in making a change, it's not an overnight situation. So what I found to be successful is that on average, most of my clients coach anywhere from 12 to 18 months, because it's about really transforming their mindset. And that's something that you just can't accomplish, through a regular weekly program or something that you do for a quarter or something like that, if you want those results that you're really looking for.
So then do you have them go through the same coaching program for 12 to 18 months, or do you have like multiples? So like they do part 1, and then there's a second course they want to do if they want to get another aspect, third if they want to get better at that?
I have found that people do continue on. Yeah. So, but after my experience with long-term coaching, I'm now transitioning to where it's just a full program that you, at a minimum, is 12 months. Because a lot of times clients come to me and they self-diagnose themselves.
Yeah.
So they'll say, you know what, I just need some confidence, and so I just need to go for this promotion, just a couple of, get myself ready for this job or whatever. And once you get into it, they have a problem with boundaries. Their self-confidence is low. Wow. Or, just a number of things as you peel back the layers that end up being an issue, and they're thinking that it's just self-confidence, but it's really a few other things.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, then you have to be really selective with who you choose, right? Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I find that, I try to find out where people's headspace is in terms of their outlook. To me, do you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? Now, for me, I had a fixed mindset myself. I dealt with being a victim, having this victim mentality until I transitioned over to having a growth mindset, which is what led me to coaching. But you can start with a fixed mindset, but there's certain things that you can see based on talking to somebody if they are flexible to want to change, So, and it'll be evident, and I'm not going to ask them to, for example, if you're learning how to play the piano, I'm not going to expect you to play Bach or, Chopin or something after a couple sessions. It's going to be a process, right? You have to learn the notes, the theory. So there are small things that I can see if somebody is actively ready to begin that journey, because it's the small things that you do that kind of get you the momentum to keep moving forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So then do you work with male, female, or is it only female? Is it?
I've worked with both. I think that there is a difference between male and female. So, to me, and it could be my personal situation where I feel like there is men are just wired differently than women. So I could say something and it may not have the same impact as another male telling another male, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
So I find that it is, yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, you said you found that what?
So I find that I think that, when it comes to business, maybe I prefer to do more business coaching, but when it comes to personal development, that is something that I feel is really should be a male to male type of coaching, because there's just an inner personality or, certain makeup with a male that can only kind of dive deep with another male. If that makes sense. That's just what I found.
Yeah. 18 months is old. So let me ask you this. So what is do you work with just anybody who has I think you said the growth mindset, or do your personalities have to match up? Because 12 months to a year is a long time to work with someone, if you don't really get along.
Right.
Yeah. So do you
Right. I think that it really is. Go ahead. You said, do we have to get along in order for me to work with them?
There's a lag between our things, because I'll ask a question and then it takes a second, then you'll start talking, and I think my question hits you. That's interesting.
Right. Yeah. So you were saying that's a long commitment for somebody. So do we have to have the same personality? Is that what you were asking, or get along?
Well, how do you protect yourself from a bad fit? Do you have a cancellation clause in the contract? What do you?
Yes, I do have a clause with that. But to me, I just have a connection. I've been around a lot of different people to kind of understand. Now, the growth mindset is what you're transitioning to. So if you already have a growth mindset, you probably don't need a coach. Now, me, I have a growth mindset, but I still have a coach, because I've learned that there are issues that I can get in my own way about. And so a coach helps me to get that clarity and focus. I'm able to be intentional with my business and see how it's going to grow, because I'm a one-person show when it comes to actually doing the services that I provide. Now, I have people that support me administratively, or, different things that they could do within my business. But in terms of me being the sole one to do my business, that's why I feel I need a coach to kind of help me keep that perspective. Now, you start out with a fixed mindset, but your desire is to get to a growth mindset. So there are things that I will notice. Like I said, if I give them small assignments, that can begin to open their mind about transitioning to the growth mindset. So, I mean, a 12 to 18 months that's more on the long-term scale. But you think about it, for me, myself, I was 46 when I transitioned to be a coach, right? It was 46 years. So like I explained to my kids, I'm not going to say, all right, I'm going to just be a transformed person after I've been doing something for 46 years. There's a lot of limiting beliefs. There's a lot of habits that just take over within a routine that has been established over 46 years that are not going to go away,
Mhm.
you know, within even a year sometimes. You know, I could still say, hey, I'm not going to do whatever. And, you know, certain circumstances could allow me to want to revert back to some of my old habits that I feel may not have served me, or even thought processes.
Mhm.
So it's something that if you look at the big scheme of things, a 12-month obligation to begin to make a change, it's really not a lot of time.
Mhm. Yeah, I've noticed
Hmm.
that too. Yeah, for
And there's growth during the process. You know, now, so if somebody says, oh, I have to wait 12 months before I see any progress, now, of course, that's crazy.
Mhm.
They will begin to show growth, but I think by 12 to 18 months, they're in a position where, one, they don't need weekly coaching.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes they can make it, just monthly, but a lot of mine transition from a week, every week to every 2 weeks, because the goal is for you to be independent and clear on how you want to live your best life. So it's not, the goal is to make it where you are eventually not needing a coach and
Mhm.
you're able to be independent to kind of think these things on your own. So it's just like, if you are an Olympic athlete, you need a coach that's going to help you prepare for that Olympics, but once you have done an Olympic meet and performed and done the best of your ability, you're in a position to where you can kind of scale and understand the dynamics of what your routine should be, how your body should function, what you should eat. You should be able to do those things on your own, if
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. That's where we're kind of a little bit similar, but a little bit different, because I always like to have
Okay.
this long. Because, for example, right, for the Olympian, even though they know what to do,
Mhm.
you still gotta, have a different program or a different aspect to improve, like Tom Brady and those kind of guys. So that's kind of
Mhm.
cool that
Mhm.
I think for yours is a little bit different, right? Because yours is on the personal side. For me,
Mhm.
and it or maybe in the
Mhm.
business side you do a little bit of that too. I don't know which one is more of a heavier split. Which one's heavier for you, business or personal coaching?
I think personal coaching is a little heavier.
Oh, about to say, yeah.
Because everybody is different, and when it comes to personal coaching, people, you really have to deal with trust,
Mhm.
with people feeling comfortable to be authentic, because we hide behind so many masks. In my case, I felt like, I had to hold it all together. I had to know all the answers. I just didn't feel like I was enough. So I just didn't want to share a lot of these inadequacies or thought processes with people that I didn't trust, right? So it was a process.
Mhm.
So I think that's something that you deal with when it comes to business. You can have those personal things that can hinder you temporarily. But if you teach someone the dynamics of, hey, this is how business is, and certain things are constant,
Mhm.
then it's easier to kind of just,
Yeah.
deal with business, because a lot of people compartmentalize anyway. So if I say, well, we're going to talk about business, you guys don't worry about your personal stuff, everybody can do that because they do that all the time. The issue, though, is that that only works for so long, because
Yeah.
if you really want to live a life of freedom and to be your authentic self, you're going to have to marry the two in a way that it doesn't matter. You can just have an open conversation and you should be the same person, whether you are in a business meeting or in your own house, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Hmm.
just, I just think it's cool because I mean you can always just keep going further and further and further and further, and you start to get them intertwined between
Hmm.
personal and business. Yeah.
Right.
What kind of businesses do you, or yeah, do you generally like work with? Do you work with any kind of business? Do you work with coaches? Do you work with consultant, accountants?
Usually it's people from all walks of life. So I do a lot of online training. I don't know if I sent you a copy or not, but like, um, I'll have sessions like on networking, for example. What's an effective way to network within your business? Now, of course, that can cover the gamut of different businesses. It could be coaches, it could be people that do any form of business. Because I speak to people that have groups, and so their audience consists of different people from different, the similarity may be that they're entrepreneurs, but of course the entrepreneur hat is different for different people. So it varies.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like basically I'm asking, do you do like basically any type of service versus do you help like product sellers? Like, for example, would you work with like an Amazon retailer or an e-commerce store that's more product side? Is it that kind of stuff where it's like, or are you talking mostly mindsets within how to handle problems within your business?
That's true. Mindsets within problems, how to handle your business.
Okay.
So I do have a marketing background. Those things do interest me when it comes to dealing with an organization. The only issue with the organization is that it's more of a feel-good type of presentation, because you're not able to follow through and make sure that it takes place. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, that was a good thing. And, you can come up with some kind of tagline, but how long is it really going to last? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I can help you like New Year. Hey, let's get off on a good start, but how strongly are they going to implement this and keep it going throughout the year? That type of thing.
Yeah, cool. So I think the way that we first got connected was you were talking about one of your podcasts called Fear to Fuel Your Success, or using fear to fuel your success. Tell a little bit more about, what that means. I know it sounds like it, but I'm sure it's very intricate in what you do.
Yes. So this really is the basis for a lot of change for people. People don't want to change because they have fear, and it comes in different forms. So fear is a constant. I don't care if I am very successful, I might have to do a presentation or meet somebody new, going to an event, traveling. I mean, there always is an element of the unknown that can be fearful for people. And so what I have practiced just in my own life when it comes to overcoming depression is that you have to face fear head on. And in my life, I use it as fuel. So instead of, saying, oh, I'm not enough, or, I don't know if I can do this, I begin to really dive deep into fear and look at how it can help me be better and how I can overcome it. So if I'm like having some anxiety about, someone calls me and says, hey, can you coach this organization, for example? Instead of saying, oh, I don't know if I can do it, I'm thinking, okay, you begin to ask the question instead of stressing out. So how many people is it? What is it that you want me to accomplish? Because a lot of the fear comes from ignorance. We don't even know all the answers to things. So we get overwhelmed because there's a number of questions that we have that we don't have the answers to. So I try to take the mindset of, how can I eliminate these obstacles that I am being encountered with? Why am I fearful? What information am I going to need so that I can calm down or even begin to see if I'm able to be a good fit? And so when you have that kind of mindset, you begin to research, you begin to ask questions instead of just jumping out there and suggesting things that you may or may not even be well versed to do. You know what I'm saying?
Because oh man, I get a lot of different kinds of people reaching out to me. So it's always, okay, let's slow down. Can I help you? Okay, so what is this thing that you're dealing with? What is blah? What is that? What is what?
Right.
And it's like, let's pause. Let's slow down, man. I know you want help, but let's slow it down a little bit.
Isn't it? Yeah.
What are some things that you're afraid of / using for fuel nowadays?
Some things that I'm afraid of now?
Or / using for fuel, yeah.
Okay. So for me, the things that still challenge me are, growth in my business, for example. So just the whole thing of, what programs I need to be offering. Sometimes expanding to more of a, what's the word I want to say? Doing more podcasts or having more exposure in different facets than what I had anticipated when it comes to just regular coaching. So my platform has expanded now to where I'm on podcasts, I'm on videos, but I have webinars. So just that whole evolution can be fearful, but just getting people that know the business, that can guide me through it. And that has really helped me with that fear, because I remain true to who I am. But it's just like, hey, you know what? I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? And there are so many people that will collaborate with you. And that's one of the hashtags that I use is collaboration 100, because you can't do it by yourself, and the more you try to, the more stressed out you can be. So I have always stayed mindful that, hey, if I don't know how to do it, it's okay getting somebody who does.
Oh.
So that helps me.
That makes sense. So what is success like to you?
Well, to me is being your unapologetic self. So being able to have the freedom to not feel like you have to compare yourself to other people, but knowing what your true superpower is. So for me, I think I have the ability to be transparent and authentic, and that allows people to be comfortable with being themselves and removing masks, which allows them to have a transformation. Now that I was able to accomplish because I feel like whatever I need for myself, I feel responsible for providing. So if I feel like if I need love or whatever I may feel that I normally used to look to other people for validation, I fill myself up with that first so that I can just be intentional and not have to be concerned with impressing other people or saying the right thing, but just really listening and being a sounding board for them to help them kind of gravitate and figure out what their life means to them, if that makes sense.
It does, yes. So I'm just thinking about where to pivot next. So then let me ask you this. So how do people identify what their true self is? So you're saying, to be unapologetically you, but how do they know exactly what you is? Do you have exercise to guide them through that? Or do they really know deep down and you just help them talk it out?
Absolutely. I think everybody knows deep down. The issue is that we bury that person. So for example, let's say that your values are family. Okay. We'll take a husband and wife, for example, and just say some of the things that I experienced. So, we both value family. So when it comes to situations to where we may disagree, well, instead of saying, okay, we're going to hash this out until we come up with a solution that we both can agree with, what I would do in the past would be like, okay, we're disagreeing. It's getting to be an issue that we can't move past. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to take it for the team and just let it go and not even make it a big deal. But inside, it was like, denying who I am and devaluing my opinion about something, instead of saying, look, you have this philosophy, I have this one. How can we compromise with something that is different that we both can agree on? So having that kind of conflict resolution mindset can help you kind of recognize that it's not a matter of being right. It's a matter of creating a new compromise that we both can live with and can still maintain our values with, if that makes sense.
It does.
So what happens is when you do this on a regular basis, maybe it's at work, in your family. I'm just using that one thing as an example. Society can tell you something, and you just believe that to be true, and you bury your own thought process. You think about Steve Jobs, for example. If he was the type of person who was weak in this sense of recognizing that he was different, we might not have smartphones today. If he needed that validation for everybody to be on board and agree with his vision, we might not even have smartphones. So there's things that we have within us that because we fear rejection or we fear failure, we're afraid to go out on a limb and stand for, because we've never really given ourselves that ability and space to do those things. So we're afraid to speak up. And so that's where the source comes from. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Just thinking about the future and kind of like the iPhone stuff, where do you think, like, where are you trying to go? So right now, this year, you want to get 20 clients. What does the next 5 years look like for you?
For me, I really want to create a movement for mental wellness. I feel like depression is something that's so common. Here in my county, I'm active in the school systems on school council because we've had situations where teenage kids in high school have committed suicide based on depression. So I feel like it's something that could be totally avoided if kids and adults have good coping skills. If they are able to recognize, one, their true voice, and be able to express some of these things in a way that's going to help them overcome their own self-doubt and rejection to the point to where it's detrimental to their mental health. So I really want to, make it where it's a common thing. For 2020, I'm even trying to do a movement where people can have a checklist of things that they can do, just like, if you have a fire, it's stop, drop, and roll. But something where we're able to have a check-in really quick about our mental wellness so that we can be mindful that, hey, this is a real thing. It sounds small, but it really can have some debilitating effects if we don't keep it under control.
So do you think that starts with the parents, or do you think that starts with students/children?
Well, it can be a little bit of both, because, the cycle comes from the mindset. So for example, let's say that a child doesn't get a good grade. So a child can say, you know what, I always do bad in this class. I'm just not good at social studies. And then a parent can, be stressed out on their end. They get the report card. Why are you always playing around in class? Or why aren't you getting a better grade? We're trying to get you a tutor. You're just not taking it seriously, but the child really may not understand. But the child may have blocked the ability to understand because it's like a recurring pattern that they're telling themselves that, why should I even pay attention? Because I'm not going to be good in this subject anyway, right? Because there's no strength of anything that's strong enough based on the lack of that muscle being used of confidence to say, you know what, this was last year. This is a new year, a new teacher. I can do this, rather than that pattern of defeat and rejection or whatever is already played out. So they just fall right back into it. So the way to explain it in a way that really makes it a little clearer is, if you're driving your car and you get a flat tire, okay, so you get the flat tire, you're going to say, let me go ahead and get a new tire or get this patch so you can keep on driving. You're not going to say, oh, I got a flat tire. I don't know how to drive. I need to turn in my driver's license. I need to sell my car because I got a flat tire. But this is what we do. When we have one situation, like, let's just say you have social studies. It could be a teacher. It could be just a concept that you don't understand. But we will throw the whole thing out and say, I'm just not a good student. nothing ever goes right for me. You see how we just go into this tangent of negativity from one thing instead of saying, you know what, you don't understand social studies. That's good. Let's get you a tutor because your other grades are well, right? So it all depends in the perspective of somebody who is dealing with them on a regular basis. If they are positive, it doesn't even have to be a setback. But if they're negative, if they have issues of their own, then it could be a downward spiral just from something as simple as one grade not being appropriate on the report card. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. That's pretty interesting. Notice that. Well, just going through school, you kind of see that a lot. Yeah, and I guess it carries through the rest of their life, right?
Right.
They're just like, I can't do that. I can't do that. Can't do that. Oh,
right.
No. And they have the flashbacks of, oh, hey, this is just like school.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even somebody later on being an author. So, we've got ebooks, people have valuable insight. But because they might not have done good in English, they're like, oh, you know what? I can never write a book, even though they have valuable content. So we think, and even writing a book is different these days. You can transcribe a book. You can, it doesn't necessarily be that you sit down and write it all out. You have so many different ways that you can turn it into a finished product, right? You can have an interview with somebody and have it transcribed, and that could be your book. But people get to the point to where they are fixed and they say, well, you know what? I never did good in English and I barely graduated, so I can't write a book. I'm not an author.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird to me. It's like people usually get like scared about the things that don't even move the needle forward. I can't write a book. Okay, well, what does it matter if you write a book? Like, it could be terrible. That's not your problem. Your problem is, how are you going to get it out there? How are people going to buy it? How are people going to find it? Can you even publish the book? Hey, you write the book, but.
Right.
And then the business owners do all the time. I got to have a website. I got to have a business plan. Dude, you don't have to have that because that's not.
Right.
Spend 6 months to a year making a business plan. I'm like, yeah, but it's wrong because you don't know your customer base. You don't even know how much you're going to sell.
So true.
Yeah.
And, because the thing about it is we are in a society where we fake it till we make it. That's one of the things we say. So if you want to do something, just pretend like you know what you're doing until it really comes to pass, right? Or copy somebody else until you do your own thing.
I mean, they say fake it till they make it, but they want to perfect it before they try.
Right. They're not even doing anything, though. That's my point. Because it's like you'll have a conversation with somebody. Let's say if I met you at Office Depot, and I'll say, yeah, I do coaching and everything, and you have a client right in front of you, but because you don't have business cards, you'll miss out on a sale because it's like, oh, I don't have a card to give them. You know what I mean? Or my website's not up. I mean, it's like you have an opportunity right in front of you. You can't look at it as everything always being cookie cutter because it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And they go, well, what would they think of me? What are they going to think if I don't have a business card, or are they going to take me serious? I mean, they are extremely logical, but that's, fear as fuel, right? I think that's
right
of it. They try and do the irrational fear, but back it up by logic. So they don't have to, and then it's just like, ooh.
This is so true. And that's how we talk ourselves out of things, because you look at it and it's like, oh, I need to have a degree, before I get into doing this business. I mean, look at Steve Jobs and them, or some of these people that left college. I mean, what kind of stuff, you just can't you have to really and this is what I'm saying about coaching, why it's so important, because, they help you have that tunnel vision. Because a lot of times people have so many different issues that are going on in their head that they cannot make a rational decision because it's like racing thoughts, right?
Yeah. Oh man, that's interesting. My biggest thing is always, how do we stop them from going back to the old mentality when Bryce is not in front of them. That is,
Right.
so that's why I've started creating more courses, more things
Right.
like that. I mean, because I mean, you can only help as many people as you can be in front of at one time. If you're just, even if you're giving them the mindsets, a lot of
Right.
people don't have the mindset to keep. It's like teaching a computer how to be atomic,
Right.
right? They just keep going same pattern. So I break the pattern 1 week, hit a wall, and then they're stopped.
Mhm.
And the harder thing for me is teaching them how to consistently be a problem solver.
Right.
So, you know,
So what you have to do is, what I do is use content all the time. So in between my sessions,
mm,
I have audio podcasts. I have a uh, schedule of information that I send to them. So whatever topic it is, let's say we're talking about mindset. I'll send them something before we talk. I'll talk to them. I'll send them a survey, and then I'll just give them different information to keep on rebuilding that mindset.
mm,
I may send them a motivational quote, you know. And so once you begin, like if your courses kind of go over the same information,
uh,
these things you can always keep. You can create them and just use them periodically. So, I like one day I might send them a visual motivational quote,
mm,
right? One day I'll send them a text message. The
yeah,
next day, I'll send them a quick video. Hey, you know, so depending on how embedded they are with some of their mindset, that will determine what they need. You
yeah,
want to make it small to where you can manage it. But if you just spend like 10 minutes a day,
mm,
saying, hey, I'm going to send out these things to these clients, it will make an impact
yeah.
because
But I'm trying to get
it doesn't take
away
much.
from that. I'm trying to make it because right now, right? If
Hmm.
you have to do all these personalized things to do the content, they're always dependent on you. I want them to be able to,
Mm,
how do they, like for example, person sends me a text message. I'm like, literally, if you pasted this into Google, you don't even have to wait for my response. I have like fact pages within there. So it's like, yeah, they have the content, they can constantly stream, but it's like once Bryce steps away, then they freak out and panic. And that's,
now, so do you give so do you give them assignments?
I do give them assignments, but again, it's the where the assignment ends versus the next one begins is that
Mm,
it's like if it's black or white, they tend to be able to
mm-hmm.
do it. But it's that little gray area where it's like fear. Okay, so Bryce told me to do 5 videos. I've done 5 videos. I know next week we're supposed to, reach out to people. But how do I reach out to people? How do I get to that next step? So then either the content has to be delivered right away, but there's always going to be an area that I can't quite cover unless
Mm-hmm.
unless I'm constantly updating faster, which is as soon as I get a text message, make the video and then put it inside of the course as well. But then
Mm-hmm.
it's like I'm patching up instead of teaching them how to think for themselves.
I see.
You know?
Um, yeah, so what I would suggest you do is try to cover two different things in a session.
Uh,
So you're going to cover where they're at now in the beginning,
uh,
and then do like a preview of their next session ahead of time. This way, they can kind of work past your limitations.
uh,
So if you're giving them 5 videos and the next thing is going to be talking to people, at the end you do like a role play or
okay.
I don't know, some talking points with a networking event or something.
Mm,
That's the way you conclude. And then you say, you know what, you are doing phenomenal. Only thing I ask is that you do these 5 videos, but you might, if you're feeling up to it, what are some talking points that you would give somebody if you met them? You see what
mm,
I'm saying? That way
yeah,
they can have that whole time to grow while you're away from them instead of hitting the wall.
exactly. That's a really good point. I noticed, yeah, even in the coaching programs I've done, they don't really have that. That's interesting.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, so and that'll allow me to, because you were talking about 20 clients. I'm like, that's cool. I'm trying to get to 100 clients, but I don't want to do one-on-one sessions.
Oh, good.
Group coaching, even then, that's kind of fun.
Okay.
But the courses allow me to really just,
Yeah.
and I can lower the price point because it's not my direct time involvement. So
Mhm.
that's really where I'm thinking about going as far as the future, just a lot
Yeah.
longer term, So
Yeah. Now, so how long are your sessions?
my sessions are about an hour, but I do
Okay.
text message like support, so you can text me 24/7. I might not
Okay.
respond 24/7, but you have the ability to text me whenever you feel like it. Depending on
I see.
how much,
Okay.
yeah, it might be
Uh-huh.
sessions or one session, how that is.
Right.
But yeah, how long are your sessions?
Mhm. Mine are an hour.
About an hour.
And that an hour goes by so quick. It's like
Yeah.
sometimes that's not enough time. But yeah, an hour is good. That gives you a good baseline to kind of dive in. And I try to make sure that it's goal oriented. So like if I tell them what we're going to be talking about, I try to let them know ahead of time if they have any questions about it, so we can dive in with those questions. And each session they have an assignment at the end, and they're able to know what they're going to do and how they're going to implement it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's really, yeah.
Mhm.
That's cool. So, how do people reach you? Do you have a website? Do you have Facebook,
Yes.
Instagram, LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, just with my name. And then my website is LaChelleAdkins.com.
Excellent. Cool. So, thank you
Mhm.
guys so much for watching this interview. Thank you so much, LaChelle, for hosting this interview and for doing this interview with me.
You are welcome.
Excellent. So, if you guys want to get more information and more strategies on how to grow, I recommend you join my group called Uncapped Growth Strategies. Just like the name suggests, we give you flowcharts, strategies, live training, interviews just like this to allow you to move forward towards success you want in your business. Thanks once again. Thank you so much. And I can't
Mhm.
wait to see the audience in the next one.
You
Have a great one.
you are welcome. Thank you.
I'm going to stop recording, then we can keep talking or whatever. Have a great day.
Okay.